So the video decided to die in the middle. So let's talk about these. All right. So determine what people like to do in their leisure time. They decided to survey the people just at the mall. And so out of that, based on their survey, they got 82% said that they like to shop. Well, they're at the mall. So that's probably why the people went there. That would be considered convenience sampling, and this would be considered bias sampling. So this is not a good way to sample. So this would be a terrible conclusion to come up with. They need to get out into the world, into the communities to determine this stuff. Part B. This one would be considered a great sample because Ford Junior High School had the opportunity to be chosen. So they chose 100 students and they were randomly selected. So that means that was unbiased. And that's how they were able to make that conclusion that 47% like football. So I would agree with that. All right, let's turn the page. Let's go to page 440. This is the last thing that we're going to do. All right, let's look at this. It says the student council at a new junior high school surveyed 5 students from each of their 10 homerooms to determine what mascots students would prefer. The results of the survey are shown at the right. If there are 375 students at the school, predict how many students prefer a tiger as a school mascot. All right, so we have this right here. We've been given tornadoes 15, tigers 28, twins 7. What you have to do is determine how many people were surveyed. If we add all of these up, we'll get a total of 50 people surveyed. And out of that 50 people surveyed, they like tigers. I know the way that your book does it, but I set it up using a proportion. My proportion deals with this. We do the survey ratio versus the actual ratio. So we're talking about the tiger. 28 people out of the 50 people surveyed like the tiger. And we set that equal to X people out of 375 people. Because that's what we want to figure out. How many people, X, out of 375 people actually like the tiger. This is just for prediction purposes. So if you remember when we saw proportions, what we did was cross multiply. So this times this is going to give us 10,500. And this times this will give us 50x. So your first part is going to look like this. 50x is equal to 10,500. Divide both sides by 50. And x is going to equal to 210. If necessary, pause the video so y'all can get it written down. But what this says is 210 people are predicted to like the tiger based on the 50 people surveyed. Let me explain something to you. Why we do surveys for the small amount of people is because nobody really has enough time to survey 375 people or survey the entire United States. So what they do is they pick a sample and survey that to make prediction. What I would like for you all to do now is go to page 440 and do this check your progress problem based on the airlines and see if you can figure it out. We got to pause the video so you can get time to do it. Let's read it. During flight, hopefully you guys paused it, but during flight, a pilot determined that 20% of the passengers were traveling for business and 80% were traveling for pleasure. If there are 120 passengers on the next flight, how many can be expected to travel for pleasure? So let's go to our pleasure issue. Our pleasure was 80% was traveling for pleasure. And that was in a survey. So we know that percent means out of 100. So 80 people out of 100 were traveling for pleasure. We're trying to figure out how many people out of 120 will be traveling for pleasure. So you multiply this times this. So 80 times 120. 12 times 8 is 96. So 9,600. So 9,600 is going to be equal to 100x. Divide both sides by 100. So 96 is going to be equal to x. So about 96 people would be there for pleasure. All right, so that's all I have for you today. I'm sorry it had to be in 2 videos. So what your homework is going to, your classwork is going to be, I'd like for you to do pages 440 to 441. I want you to do numbers 1 through, let's do numbers 1 through 8. All right, and then that's for your classwork. And for homework, you're going to do page 441, number, let's do 9 to 12. All right, have a great class.